Let's talk 2025 releases and predictions in gaming. Because if we're being honest, I don't feel like there's a ton of variety of stuff to get excited about coming up in the AAA space for gaming, with the exception of Clair Obscur, Expedition 33, Grand Theft Auto 6, Split Fiction, which is the next game from the studio that did It Takes Two, and of course Monster Hunter Wilds. There's some ports of games coming, like Tales of Grace's F, and of course our 15th remaster of the Last of Us series. But honestly, outside of these, everything kind of feels ethereal. Game releases are slowing down a little bit. At least that's what it feels like in my side of the world. And we do cover all kinds of games on this channel, but we do tend to sit largely in the spaces of Square Enix, Nintendo, and Capcom. And that's mostly what I'm going to talk about today. But I really want to make a few predictions about what's going to happen this year, and then we can save it and take a look back and see how based and correct I was, or how ridiculously whacked out of my gourd I sound. Anyway, let's talk about the games. I'm Solace. This is Solace and Dread. We produce analytical content primarily focused on gaming. If you like that kind of stuff, consider subscribing. All right, let's jump in, and we're going to start with Square Enix. And this is first particularly because it's concerning to me. Recently, as in the past few years, leadership at Square Enix recently said that they wanted to scale back the amount of games that they were pumping out. Now, what this meant in my little turtle brain is the times that they were like dumping AA titles like Star Ocean 6 and Valkyrie Elysium and a bunch of other games coming out all at once. Sometimes that led to less than stellar results. And I think that they want to be a little more intentional with what they're putting out. So right now, there's virtually nothing on the wait list for Square Enix, save for the Dragon Quest remakes 1 and 2. Now, if I had to make some predictions, I would guess that we're going to get Kingdom Hearts 4 news, but we won't actually get the game until 2026. At best, holiday 2025. Then, to tide the Kingdom Hearts fandom over, they're going to release Kingdom Hearts Missing Link, which is like a mobile game that will probably tie something from the previous games to where we are in Kingdom Hearts 4. This game has already been delayed a considerable amount, so I'm pretty sure that we're going to get this announced this year and given to us this year. Also, a new Nier game. What that looks like, I don't know. Maybe Automata remaster or something. But Nier has been teased, and I don't know how much we're going to get, but it's been a long time since we got the last Nier game, and I think that we're going to get something Nier related. The Final Fantasy XIII trilogy remaster will probably happen, as Final Fantasy XIII is the only mainline Final Fantasy game that you really can't play on modern consoles. And then people can play it and really understand just how terrible the game was the entire time, but they'll still vigorously defend it on Twitter anyway. Just saying. My next prediction, the Final Fantasy IX remake does not get an announcement. We've been waiting on bated breath for this game for years now, since the NVIDIA leak. And my bold prediction here is that it doesn't even come up. I would love to be wrong here. This is like one of my top 10 games of all time. It was my first Final Fantasy, well, save for Mystic Quest. And I would love to see this come to life. But saying we're not getting a remake this year or even an announcement is a bold prediction on its own, because everybody seems to think that we are. We are instead going to get a Final Fantasy Tactics remaster. That I can see coming. And while this is more wish list than prediction, I'm going to put it out there. We see something Chrono related. Could be a Chrono Trigger remake or remaster. Could even be a new game. But we're gonna get it. And I feel confident in saying that because Chrono isn't completely dead, because they did remaster Chrono Cross, even though that remaster was pretty bad. I will also say that in the AA space, we're going to get a new Star Ocean game. It could be a remake, could be a remaster, could be Blue Sphere, could be Star Ocean 7. I'm still banking on this coming, as while they have kind of canned a lot of the AA titles, I think that Star Ocean is probably their strongest AA franchise. That's just my take. And lastly, I think it's damn near guaranteed that we get a substantial Dragon Quest XII update. We might not get the game, but I think we're going to get an actual update on 12, maybe even see footage, see a protagonist, etc. DQ does too well on their home turf, and there's just no way we're not going to get that. So I'll even go as far as to say we'll get the game like early 2026. But that's it for Square Enix. Now let's talk Capcom. They had some pretty crazy announcements very recently, and the biggest of them being a sequel to Okami and a sequel to Onimusha. But here's the rundown for my thoughts on what I think we're going to get from these guys. Resident Evil 9, and I'll even predict who's going to be in it. I think it'll be a new character, but it will probably involve Jake, which was Wesker's son. If not Jake, then it'll be a sleeper character like Sheva Alomar from 5 or Sherry as an adult from 6. I'm one of those rare Resident Evil 6 fans out there that stays hidden, because when I tell people that I love it and it's my favorite in the series, they pelt me with rocks and tell me that I deserve to die. If we don't get that, then we're going to get a Resident Evil remake of some kind, like Code Veronica or something. But, you know, you can absolutely count on Resident Evil getting more love, because that is just cash in the bank for Capcom. I also am going to make something a little more bold here. I think we're going to get something Mega Man related. We got the Mega Man episode of Secret Level, so they are actively acknowledging him. And they've even said for 2 years in a row now in the shareholder meetings that they've been considering their approach on making something new with him. So I think this is the year where we finally get them to cash in on that nostalgia and give us something awesome. I think that it'll be a 3D Mega Man game as well. That's why I think they're considering the approach. I think they're going to abandon the 2D, and it could be like a Legends remaster, or even like from that all the way to like a platforming Mega Man X, like 3D. But I do think it'll be 3D. I'd still be happy with 2D, but like I do think they're going to push it into 3D and do something new with Mega Man. Also, the Capcom Fighting Collection 2, that is coming, and it will be released ahead of summer this year. What I think is going to happen is that their big fighting game tournaments are going to be like heavy marketing for these games, and they will have a plan in place to have it ready for launch before or shortly after the big fighting game tournaments. And a lot of them tend to happen like anywhere between like April to like June. So I think during that arc of time, we're going to see a lot of push from Capcom for the fighting game collection. I also think that the real release date for the new game from Capcom called Pragmata complete. I think we're going to get that this year. And I think it's going to be complete with like a full gameplay reveal. I don't think we're going to get it into a holiday or maybe in early 2026, but this game was like announced and as coming out as like 2022 and it got pushed to 2023. Now they don't even know when. It's clearly going through dev hell, and I think that they're trying their best to put something together and maybe even rebuild from scratch. But I think that we are going to get it in 2026, and it'll be announced and shown off this year. All right, now we've got the big boy, Nintendo. Seeing as we are in the death throes of the Nintendo Switch life cycle, I can't really talk about what's coming up without mentioning the Switch 2. So here's what I predict, but honestly, it's such a wild card from them at this point because they've been so quiet that I have nothing to base my predictions off of, just looking at what has been rumored and what is needed, right? So Nintendo, I think that most of their games for 2025 will be playable on the Switch 2 as well as the Switch. So that first year of releases is going to allow for dual purchasing for most titles, specifically first party. There might be one that's exclusive or maybe two, but I think most of them are going to be cross-platform. Also on that note, I think that touchscreen controllers will come back in some way. I will elaborate more on that in a future video, but I think screened controllers are returning, and this will allow for some very long awaited ports. Switch ports, I think, are going to come for Metroid Prime 2 and 3, and that will hold us over until Prime Beyond, or Prime 4. The Metroid Prime series has been, like, salivated over. They've been working on Beyond for years. They had to rebuild it from scratch, and now that we have a name, I think Metroid Prime 2 and 3 will be coming to the Switch. Another blast from the past, Star Fox Adventures and Assault will probably get ports. I think that we're going to get a new Star Fox game also in 2025, but I think that the first two that were like on GameCube, I think that we are going to get Adventures and Assault ports. And I'll be honest, like, I haven't played a whole lot of Star Fox games, but Star Fox Adventures was my first dip into the Star Fox world, like a substantial one, and it's my favorite Star Fox game. It's been long enough. We're going to get Star Fox. I think it's going to happen. Then Zelda, Wind Waker, and Twilight Princess. I think that they are going to get a remaster, and it's going to be on the Switch too, but only if there are screened controllers. Like, only if there are screened controllers. And I say this because that team is gameplay experience first, and the gameplay experience is intrinsically worse on the Switch than on the Wii U because of the lack of the gamepad. They're not going to want to make something that is worse. That's just not how that developer team operates. They just don't do that. Aonuma doesn't do that. I think also we're going to get Mario Kart 9. It'll be a launch title for the Switch too. And there's going to be new racing mechanics like flying or submarining or boating, and even like stuff for new terrain types, like something that handles high debris areas, you know, like a big wheel sort of thing. So I think that they're going to completely switch up the formula to make it something a little closer to Sonic and All-Stars Transformed. I see it happening. And then I also think we're going to get a new 3D Mario game, and it's going to launch shortly after release, and they will have some kind of shovelware on release to demonstrate the tech, kind of like 1-2 Switch. And then, of course, Switch 2 will have a ton of ports, tons. Like stuff that's not normally on there, like Elden Ring or Metaphor ReFantazio, Resident Evil games. Like so much stuff that it's like hard to even predict because now that they have increased power on their hardware, I think that, you know, it'll probably be an obvious move from a lot of third-party developers that they will want to put their stuff on to a Nintendo console, because those consoles has just got such an install base. At least the first Switch did. So there's just no way I see that escaping the grasp of these third-party developers. Now, outside of these publishers, Persona 6 is going to get announced and get a tentative date, but nothing tangible. But I think we're at least they're going to confirm Persona 6 is on the way, and we're going to see whatever color scheme or whatever they have on the way for that. Elden Ring Night Rain, which is the co-op action Elden Ring. I think that it's going to launch and it's going to be buggy, and it's going to have a rocky launch. That's my prediction, and people are not going to be very happy with it. Just my prediction for Elden Ring Night Rain. Claire Obscura Expedition 33, and this is probably my worst prediction, but I think it's going to be way more linear than people expected, and it's going to fail to deliver on the expectations that people like me have built up in their heads. I'm saying this as partially as a way to temper my own expectations, but I really think that that game is going to be a little different than what we all anticipated, despite the amazing cast. And that's really it. I can't wait to look back on this a year later and see how incredibly accurate or based I fucking was, but we'll see. Anyway, that's it from me. Thanks for watching. We'll see you soon, and long live the Turtle Kingdom.